concerned about or know about?
I don't know. I could give a little cheer if you want. I thought that Apex Connect, which was in Berlin, Germany, a couple weeks ago, I thought was fabulous. I thought the setting in Berlin was very cool and funky and very representative of I think this growing Apex community. Also, I was with Scott Spendolini. Was it last week? At the
Yeah, last week.
Great Lakes Oracle Conference in Cleveland, Ohio, and this is shaping up to be a very a larger sort of go-to conference regionally here, like in the Midwest, and they had their first ever Apex Developer Day on the day in advance of the conference, and it was sold out. It was all 100 people, and it's just things are really just growing in general. I was talking with Anthony Rayner. He's in Plymouth, England, and he was at the UK OUG Apex SIG yesterday, and he was telling me that it's great to see so many new faces there. So things are expanding and growing, which is where we want to be. All right, thanks, Martin.
Great, thanks, Joel. So Jurgen, can you hear us now?
Can you hear me? So
Yep.
We're live
okay.
online right now. So if you want to get started, share your screen and let's
Okay.
start talking about Apex and printing.
Hold on. I don't see the panel. Oh, here
Just
we go.
while we're waiting for Jurgen to kick this off, just a reminder, we're talking about conferences. Kscope 17 is coming in about 6 weeks, June 25th to 29th or 3rd. I may have gotten those dates off by one. So check out kscope17.com. It's probably the best conference for Apex. All right, Jurgen, it's all yours. Joel, we can't hear you.
I need the screen.
I was just going to say, for people coming to Kscope, I'm surprised at the number of people who come to Kscope and don't go to the Sunday Symposium, and they should.
You see my screen now?
Yep. You're all good to go?
Perfect. Then let's go.
Where's the music?
So hi guys, sorry for the interruption. My network connection broke. Now I'm on LTE again, and some news about Apex World. Quick news. We have now around 2,500 registered users and more than 1,000 users in Slack and almost 100 plugins. That's really great. The latest podcast is from Francis Minot, which is founder of Insum, and thanks to Jeff for cutting all our podcasts, and there are more in the line, in the queue to come. Recorded on air shows, you always find them in Apex World on air, and this one will also be recorded. Today is all about printing, and I'm gonna start talking about AOP, which is Apex Office Print. And I'm pretty happy because I have now a couple of months of experience in a current project, so I can tell you everything about it, I think. I start with how it works, then go to examples and tell you the most interesting thing, I think, which is personal experience, project experience. So AOP, you should think of it like having an PL/SQL API. This is what we all know. This is what you see, the PL/SQL API. And the PL/SQL API takes different input formats. So it takes SQL or a PL/SQL routine, which brings out a SQL, or a PL/SQL function that returns a JSON file, or you can just throw an interactive report or multiple reports or classic reports in it, or you just have a web service that returns a JSON. This is what the PL/SQL API takes. And then this PL/SQL API merge together with templates. So the thing is that you do your actual printing output templates in the target system. So if you want to have a Word output, you do it in Word, your template. If you want to have an Excel output, you do it in Excel and PowerPoint and stuff like that. You also can do HTML5 and Markdown, which is pretty new in version 3.0. And it all together merges in one big JSON file. And this JSON file got transported to a Node.js server, and this Node.js server now prints the content in all the desired output formats: PDF, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, HTML5, and Markdown, which is pretty new. And also, you can direct print your output. And you can also put all together in one zip file if you have multiple outputs, then you can also create a zip file. The benefits of this architecture is it's the easiest way to create your output formats, because you do it in your target application, as you already know how it works. So everybody knows Word, and it's pixel perfect. And you have native charts in Word, Excel, and PowerPoint. This means when you export an Apex chart into Word or PowerPoint, for example, then the end user is able to modify this chart. But you can also send, of course, a pixel perfect image from your web front end to AOP, to the output, to PDF or whatever. And because it's just an PL/SQL API, you can always do the whole reporting through mail without even invoking any front end. So you can just create a scheduler and say, okay, every Monday morning, my customer gets 10 different reports zipped in a mail, and they don't even have to invoke a front end. And because the Node.js server is totally independent from any technology, it just takes JSON. It also works with other technology like Jet, Java, .NET, or REST services. And it's an easy debugging, because we always have this JSON interface that it really comes handy if you have any problems, and you can see what's really in the JSON, and that's easy debugging. Other benefits: it runs in cluster mode, so you can have multiple servers up and running. We have now 5 in parallel. It has great performance now. They improved a lot the performance. So when we started, up to now, we have 20 times faster performance, especially in Excel download. And it has native support for interactive grid, classic reports, interactive reports, chat charts, high charts, which are all these SVG charts, the new chart types. And there's extensive documentation, very great documentation. Anytime I'm asking something, Dimitri is pointing me out to documentation. So documentation is really great. And we have a big sample app. So you can download the sample app for free. And there you have all the examples in an Apex application. You can log in as a developer and see how it really works, and can modify it and play around with it. And another benefit, I would say, they have an affordable cloud service without install anything. And they have really rapid release cycles. They come up with a new version every 2 months so far. And even in between, they make a lot of improvements and send them right away. And I would say the best thing of all, great support. This is what I really need in a project. Then let's go to examples. So these are some output examples. You can print anything you can think of. You can, of course, print and achieve with Apex Office Print, because it's part of the technology. And here it's a simple, of course, there's a plugin on top of it. You don't have to use the PL/SQL API natively. So, of course, there is an Apex plugin which fills and the native PL/SQL API. And you see it's very easy to create an output format. Within, I would say, 30 seconds, you're ready to go, and you can have your first PDF output with the plugin. Right? You just give the static ID from an interactive report, and you're good to go. And here you see this sample application you get for free, and you can see here also that it is very easy to also to print out multiple interactive reports. And here are the macro where you have the placeholder for the data. But all you have to do is say interactive report 1, interactive report 2, and it knows what's on your screen. So if you change to a chart, for example, it also recognizes that you're not printing out the data now, but you printing out what you see on the screen is what you get at the end in PDF or Word or Excel or whatever. Oops. Sorry, I have to go. Still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so coming to the price, we looked for BI publisher, and for our purposes, we have a price for BI publisher list price around 200,000 for the first year, and then around 30,000 for the following years, comparing to Apex Office Print, which does exactly the same for our needs. I mean, BI publisher has much more. Of course, it's a professional printing server for enterprises, but what we need for Apex, so you have a cloud pricing for $30 a month. You can print 150 Word files or PDF files, and if you go for $50, you can do Excel and also PowerPoint for $100. But of course, nobody wants to send sensitive data to an external cloud service. There are on-premise versions too, which are for me pretty cheap to comparing to BI Publisher and what they really accomplish. And yeah, personal project experience. I think that's the most interesting part. Implemented it in a very large company, and you have a lot of red tape there, a lot of problems to install that. It's not that it's complicated to install AOP, not at all, but it came up every week with a new requirement. You can do this, you can do that. And Dimitri and his team, they helped us out immediately. So we had live Zoom sessions, and they made everything possible. Every problem we faced, they solved it immediately. This was really great. And if we had a performance problem, they came up 2 days later with a version that was 20 times faster. So this is what I really like. I need people in the team to make this really working at the end, because this is a essential and a critical part of the project. If this is not working, the whole project is not working. And was very happy also with the Apex team, because we found a couple of bugs in Oracle itself, and Christian Neumiller fixed it then in Apex JSON. So he did some workarounds for this XMLDB bugs. And also Carsten Charsky, he came up with a bug fix in the plugin within 4 hours. Right? I showed him the problem, he made a test case, and 4 hours later we had a bug fix, and that's really great. So this is the reason why I think that people are so successful, not that some smart guy invented something brilliant 18 years ago, because what they do every day. And this is why the support award for 2017 goes to the AOP team and the Apex team. Thank you. This was all from my side.
Is there a monetary award associated with that prize?
Say that again. No, I don't get any money for that. Yeah. I don't get any, not yet, but I'm really happy, I must say, with the whole solution, especially with the help from the support from AOP and from the Apex team. We couldn't make it without them. And they were much, much faster than even our guys could even install it. So this is what I have to say. Any questions about AOP?
Yeah, we have some questions from the chat window. Just some people are just commenting and reiterating the AOP support. That is phenomenal, and they liked it. Uh, so some of them are very specific. I'm not going to go in there. Just one was really from Joel, is how long until Oracle buys AOP and releases it free with Apex?
Was that the question to me, or I didn't generate that question?
Yeah, no, that was from someone. Someone wrote in the chat in the questions.
Yeah, to be honest with you, and I see Dimitri on here as well. That was actually running through my head while I was watching this. But you know.
And Dimitri didn't ask for that question, by the way.
It's cool.
Okay.
No, that's very compelling.
If there's one, I just like to add one thing to that. And you went through it, but I think it's very important for everyone to understand is when you showed the word template for when you actually create your template itself with the substitution strings, that's really easy for business users, and that's something to consider when looking at all this. There's all these different solutions out there, but you want one at the end of the day that is drop dead easy for business users. And after seeing this in action, you could just give it to them, show them some examples. Maybe you have to help out with some more complex ones, but for the majority, they're the ones who are going to filter the headers, titles, bold. In other systems, I've had numerous requests of like, can you make something bold? And can you make something italics? And the time it takes just to go from business user to developer, testing and back is really long and expensive, whereas AOP, all business users, they can just do it and then give you the file. You may again have to clean something up, but that's minimal amount of time.
Okay, all right, thanks. Then I switched already to Scott.
Yep, thank you. Before I do a little bit about PLPDF, I mean, I can't not mention what we've done with AOP. Again, I echo Jürgen's statements. The support's been phenomenal. We were tasked with building 120 downloadable reports, and we were given roughly 2 to 3 weeks to do this task. So we had the SQL. The SQL was horrible and very complicated, built on top of Oracle Customer Care and Billing. So we used AOP to be able to produce nice-looking Excel, PDF, and Word documents. We used it very differently because I wasn't about to go in and install a plugin and then configure it 120 times, but rather I wrote a single PL SQL call that grabbed the report and then passed everything to that. So indirectly, I'm responsible for a whole bunch of features in AOP, a lot of stuff that was never imagined or envisioned that it would be used in this mechanism, but the maintenance is fantastic. I mean, we could add a new report to the system now in no time at all. We create a new interactive report on the page, create a table to put the data in, and then that's it. We don't have to add a call to AOP because by default, we just have a single button that calls it for every single report. Built a couple little template management pieces, and it's been a great solution. And again, I mean, Dimitri and his team have been fantastic with support, and I know I try to do the math sometimes when I email him at 9 o'clock at night and I get an answer right away. I'm
exactly.
Like, when do you sleep? Because I'm asleep at that time in my time zone, that's for sure. All right,
we have a similar thing. So we had to download 250,000 of records in an Excel sheet with 25 different, in an Excel file with 25 different sheets, 250,000 records, and yeah, he made it work.
Yep, yeah, we're anxious to get our hands on that 3.0 release because we've got some reports that aren't that big, but 40,000 records or so are what we're generating. All right, so I'm going to go through these PLPDF slides. The funny thing is I found these slides from 2-3 years ago, and I didn't really have to change them because the core PLPDF API tool is what I want to talk about. Hasn't changed a whole heck of a lot, and that's not a bad thing. Third-party product by OraNext, plpdf.com if you want to download it. Really, this is a neat set of PL SQL APIs that allow you to generate PDF documents right from the database. Pretty easy to securely integrate with Apex. You just call the procedures from an Apex process, and that's pretty much it, right? So installation configuration is pretty basic as well. It's got a pretty robust reporting engine. It does have some basic chart support. It can do barcodes. You could start with an existing PDF file as a template, and that's what I'm going to be demonstrating today. We could also embed TrueType fonts. So if you wanted to print your own custom font in a report, that's also possible. You can encrypt PDF documents so that as they are printed, they are encrypted with a password. And you can also use PNG and JPEG images as well. So all the standard kind of stuff is there. What I think the biggest selling points about PeelPDF is the licensing. $600 per instance of Oracle. Even though probably right now a lot of stuff that I've done with PeelPDF in the past, I may choose to do with AOP if I had to do it over. For $600, it's hard not to have this toolkit available when you're working on any project that has any sort of reporting requirement. Some of the AOP stuff just it can't do the kind of dynamic printing, or at least I haven't gotten to that point where I could figure it out easily that PeelPDF has let me do. It's nice because there is no additional hardware. You literally install it as a schema. It takes about 2 minutes to install, and then create a couple grants and you're good to go. So the whole premise of PeelPDF is that it produces a blob. That blob is going to contain your PDF document. That might be attached as an email. You might download that to your browser. You might store it in a table. You might index it with Oracle Text. You could even have this scheduled asynchronously, just like you can with AOP as well, to run every night and produce 20 reports, store them in a table, email them as attachments, and also index them with Oracle Text, right? So you can build up any type of operations because it's just a standard blob data type. There's really nothing fancy about it. It is a code-based API, so you lose some of the elegance in that everything you do is basically calling these little API calls. So the standard hello world example takes about 5 lines of code at the absolute minimum. Initialize it, create a new page, set your print font to whatever font and size you want, print your cell, and then send that to a blob variable. It gets a little tricky, and there really is no GUI interface to PeelPDF, and right off the bat, this knocks every business user I've ever talked to out of contention for this being a tool for them. Everything is handled via API calls. It is a little limiting, and it can be a little bit cumbersome. So for instance, if you wanted to print a document and you wanted to do different fields on the document, you've got to get the XY coordinates of the beginning point of each one of those fields. So what do? I start at 1010, and I kind of move down to maybe 2010, and then shift it over a little bit to 2020, and you basically iterate to where you need to be on the page. But this is where I've used my high school algebra skills way more than I ever thought I would, and maybe my teachers were right that I will use this stuff later in life to figure out how to use variables to make sure that everything is spaced out. And it does have a lot of neat APIs that as you learn how to use it, you'll come to enjoy using. So really the sweet spot here, simple reports, right? If for whatever reason you don't want to go the AOP route, if you just want to create simple reports, it's not a bad place. If your end users don't need to get involved, right, this is also a decent solution. And then really, if you've got the PL SQL skills and not a lot of money, PeelPDF is definitely the cheapest way to get in the game. There is also, and I'm not going to review it because it is kind of in rough shape, there's another utility called PLF-PDF, which is an open source set of PDF generation APIs. I found it online, and then I found in a forum somebody pasted a better version of it. So it's kind of in a weird state. I don't want to recommend it, but if you use your Google skills, you could probably find it too. So I'm not going to go through any more slides. I've got plenty, but no one wants to see that. Let's jump into a quick demonstration here of how we're using it real world today. So what we do is we've got a little CRM system that we use to manage the business here. And one of the things I could do is create a quote. So quote gets mapped into a customer. Quotes can have line items. We could pick a contact info. We could pick an address. You've seen this stuff before. But I put a couple line items on this quote here. Senior Apex developer in training. Just made up a couple prices. If I want to print this quote, what we do is basically call PeelPDF to generate this document, which I'll then download and attach into an email and send off to the specific customer. Most of this document is actually a, believe it or not, QuickBooks invoice that I printed and then kind of stripped all the stuff off of. So the only thing that PeelPDF is handling is the actual courier font stuff. So the name and the address, the date, the quote number, each quote line, and then down here the total of the quote, and then the little message at the bottom of the quote. So I was able to upload this PDF template, and then all I've got to do is kind of sprinkle in, 5 or 6 different places where I produce the dynamic data. To take a look at the code for this quote, let's take a look at the PL SQL package called print quote. I pass in a couple parameters here. We define a few local variables, right? The name of the quote, the MIME type, the address, the quote details. A couple things here. I do the calculations for the total, so I know what to put at the bottom. I grab the quote from the quote's view, so I've got all the information about the quote. And then what I could do here is grab a different template that I use for the quote, depending if I want to display discounts or not. So if there were no discounts, I may not want to display them. And this is basically just a PDF document that I've uploaded to a table called templates. Sales quote, no discount, and sales quote, just a blank document there. I then attach that template into the PDF, the PL PDF parser that says use this template for the document. And then I run through the initialization. I grab the template. I create a new page. I place the template on the page. And then here comes all the XY fun, right? So set my font to Courier 10, put the cursor at 11, 62, XY coordinate, and then just loop through and print out all the details about the customer, right? So if I've got a second address, I print that, go through, et cetera, et cetera. Jump over to the date and the order number, do the same thing, switch XY. It does have some capabilities to do a little bit more elegant reports. There's some APIs that you can call. But in this case here, I'm just iterating through all the quote lines, and as I hit each quote line, I print that, the quantity, the list price, the discount percentage, the list price extended, total cost, customer memo, disclaimer, and then I dump this off to a blob. The way that I call this in Apex is if we take a look at page 8555, this is the page with the button, all I'm doing is basically calling a page from this, in this case 8556. So if we bump our page up by 1, this page simply has the print quote API call in the page rendering phase before header, and this page is also set to be a modal dialog. So while I'm in my application here, I never have to leave the quote page to print a quote. So if I click this, it pops open a window, there it is, dismiss it, move on. Same with projects. If I wanted to do time cards, I could do the same thing with PL PDF, and we have a very similar template that we use. So if I go to, say, invoices, and I'm ready to print invoices out, I click on time card, and then we get this timesheet that goes through all the different entries that we have for each customer with the details and the total number of hours. This will match up to what's printed on the invoice. This gets all sent as one file. Would I do it differently with AOP? Perhaps. From a cost point of view, for a small business, there is a big difference between, $4,300 versus $600. But as far as from a development point of view, I probably could have made that time up elsewhere had I made the investment on the AOP side. But a lot of this stuff, this has been in use probably for 6 or 7 years or so. One real strong suit with PL PDF is when you don't know what the document's going to look like. And just to relay a customer story that we had a client who was basically building a very similar system to this, where they took orders, but what they would do is punch out from Salesforce to an Apex app to configure the order. Once the order was configured, we would then print a PDF document, but based on a whole bunch of factors, which included the products on the order, the country in which the order was placed, the PDF document would include the standard order. It would include any PDF brochure of a document that was included on the quote. It would also include a second page which had recommended items, right? So you wanted a quote for a widget. People who bought widgets also bought this widget. So we're going to give you information about that. And then based on the country, it would pull a template with the legal terms for that specific country. So that would be really hard to pull off in AOP in some sense, because you've got to go through a number of different conditions, and we would basically assemble the document in line. So go through, print the different order numbers, order lines, pull the PDFs, pull all that into a single document, and then do a stamp on it, right? So we wanted to have a watermark on it that said quote, not order, so that the customer would know it's a quotation, not a binding order, and then go ahead and email that out. So that it's kind of that utility knife in a lot of ways, and that's where I still do use it for that type of stuff, where I need to be in PL SQL a lot. There's a lot of conditions. I'm not sure what it's going to look like until I'm in the PL SQL context, and at that point it just might be easier to use PL PDF versus AOP for some stuff. So I think that's my time. I did about 10 minutes there. Any questions, Mark, from the forum here?
Yeah, so Scott, there's a couple questions, but probably the most important one is someone had mentioned, so you talked about how you almost have to play Turtle. For those use Turtle way back when, and go in your XY coordinate and then print from there. But PL PDF recently launched a Word template engine as well, so you could do something similar, not exactly the same as AOP, but similar, where you can do Word templates, and then so you don't have to do the XY coordinates.
That's right. And I did mention, I should have mentioned that they do have a similar product where you can use templates, as well as for Excel. I think there's a PL XLS as well.
I believe so, yes.
Yep, but those are priced out differently than the $600 per server. They're not much more, but I think they're $1,000 or so, give or take. But again, I like this because, again, for $600, you get so much utility when you simply can't do it in AOP, or you've got those obscure requirements. It's worth it right there to consider it.
I mean, to me, I almost parallel this to Apex and this whole spectrum of, do you want to have no code and low code, or high code, but absolute high control as well. And that's effectively what you're conveying here.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah, I saw the question about PL PDF and Apex Cert. We simply can't do that. It's a commercial product, and we would have to come up with a way to license it to include it with an open source tool. But we are currently doing PLF PDF with Apex Cert. That is open source. That is okay to include. And like I said, I found a better version in a post on a chat room, which just sounds really dirty, but it seems to work, and we are in the process of kind of reintegrating that into Apex Cert.
Okay then, Mark, I would say.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, you have a lot to say.
No, not really. Let me share my screen.
Let me open it up for you, Mark.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, cool. Well, let me close those windows over here. Yeah, so what I want to talk about is what's actually built into Apex. Oops. Okay, there you go. So I want to talk about what's actually built into Apex. Of course, there's VR Publisher, there's FOP, and I don't want to really get into too many details on how to create these layouts. Clearly, with VR Publisher, that's pretty easy. With Access LFO, it's harder. But I want to talk about how it's working and then how you can really extend it on your own, if you will. So what we have built in to Apex, and that's been the case for many releases, there hasn't been any changes in 5.0 or 5.1, is the ability to export your report data as PDF or Word or Excel. That applies to classic reports, interactive reports, and what we call report queries. There's no support yet for interactive grids. That's coming. And what you basically do is you export your data in XML format. You associate it with a template, RTF, when using VR Publisher, or Access LFO when using FOP or ORTS. And then you get a PDF of your report data. This is not a print screen, right? Like I often get that question, how do I print my screen? That's not what that is. If you want to print your screen, including some of your jet shots perhaps, then you can use printer-friendly templates. You can use media queries to strip away some of the navigation. But that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about exporting reports into PDF. I talked about classic reports. So for classic reports, you can either use the built-in XSLFO-based layout, so you can add your own headers and fonts and colors, or you can create your own name, column, RTF, or XSLFO layouts and associate them with your classic report. For interactive reports, it only works with the built-in customizable XSLFO layout. And for report queries are independent of a region. They allow you to specify multiple source queries if you want to have a more complex report. You can, again, use RTF and XSLFO-based layouts, but you can also include session state. So one of the advantages of the built-in Apex solution is that you really have full access to your query results and your session state. You're connected, of course, as your Apex user. So whatever that user can do is used to generate the XML data. And then the XML data is handed off to the print server. And that looks like this. There you go. So for BR Publisher, it means you use Apex as you normally would through a browser. You connect ideally through auths to Apex, and then you request a report to be printed. Then Apex generates the XML data of that report, associates an RTF template with it, sends it both to BR Publisher using util HTTP, and then BR Publisher generates the PDF or Word or Excel document, which is sent back to database and then typically downloaded to your browser. Since it's coming back into the database, you can also store it in your database as a blob or attach it to emails. And of course, with BR Publisher, you get the advantage that you can use the BR Publisher Word plugin to create your RTF-based layouts. You have easy syntax to reference columns and items. You can include charts and tables and such. With the XSLFO-based layout, that's a bit more difficult. The other option is to use auths. If you're using auths, you don't need to configure really anything. One of the difficulties customers have is with BR Publisher being hard to configure. You have to open networking services and other things. With auths, it's all built in. You configure auths, you configure Apex, you just use Apex as you normally would. You request a classic report or interactive report to be generated as a PDF. And what happens then is that Apex generates the XML data, generates the XSLFO template, merges both into a single document, sends it to auths. Auths intercepts that document, looks at the header information, sees that's supposed to be PDF, and then renders a PDF document and sends it down to the client. So that's very easy to configure because you don't really have to do anything other than setting up Apex. Now, if you want to use the print APIs that are built into Apex and use auths, then it's a little bit more complicated because then you need to go back to configuring networking services. And the architecture is similar to BR Publisher or FOP. You generate XML, you take your template, you send it over to auths, and then the PDF comes back to the database. In this picture here, I'm using the same auths that is used to run my Apex instance, right? I could have a separate auths that looks like this. So we had this old FOP.war file years ago, was supported in 5.0, but just like that FOP WAR file, you can use auths today as an external print server, and then everything goes the same way as it would with BR Publisher and the old FOP. So you send your XML and your template to auths, also turns back the PDF into your database. The advantage here is that you're not using the same auths for printing that you're using to serve up your Apex pages, right? If your auths is in front of a firewall, you want to have your print server behind the firewall, then a separate auths instance may make more sense. Right, so to configure any of this, you go to the instance administration Apex and scroll down to the report printing settings. Oracle REST data service is selected by default, so there's nothing else to do. You don't have to enter any print server hosts or print server ports or scripts. If you're using BR Publisher, then you select BR Publisher in the select list, and you fill in the address of your BR Publisher server and the port and the script. If you're using the old FOP WAR file or the auths configuration, then you also fill in the print server host and port. Now, if you're using any of these options that call out via util HTTP, you have to enable networking services in your database 11G and up. That's needed for outbound email, that's needed for web services, and it's also needed for PDF printing. If you're using your publisher and FOP, you need to do that. If you're using ORTs, generally you don't, because you've seen the picture. It doesn't do that round trip via util HTTP, unless, of course, you use the APIs as I mentioned. In that case, you need to enable networking services. And you also need to configure ORTs to allow the old FOP, is how we called it. So there's entry, key, blah, 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 old FOP equals true, that you need to add to your defaults.xml. There's actually a white paper on our OTN page that explains all of this in much more detail. But this is an important piece that you need to enable this way of printing inside ORTs. And then if you want to use ORTs as the external print server, as an alternative to the old FOP, then this is the script that you're calling, right? You're not calling XMLP server, you're not calling the old FOP.war file, you're calling this URL FOP to PDF in your Apex instance administration to make that work. And again, that's documented in this white paper on OTN. So now, all of these solutions are pretty straightforward and pretty open, right? You could build your own rendering engine print server if you like. All that's needed is getting the XML data in, getting the template in, either XSLFO or RTF. Then you can supply a template type for your publisher. It's either XSLFO or RTF. And then you can request an output format. ORTs only supports PDF. But this via publisher, you can do PDF, RTF, XLS, HTML, XML, or whatever your own print server would support. Just to give you an example, this is the old FOP.war file, right? There isn't really much to it. It gets a template in, it gets, whoops, it gets XML in. How do I get rid of this? Anyhow, it gets XML in, and then it processes the XSL and the XML data, it converts it into PDF, and it returns it back to your database. So you could see how you could perhaps use a Node.js solution or some other solution in place of this old FOP or in place of ORTs. In fact, I talked to a customer in Germany at Apex Connect who used that signature to call the print server API and back-ended it with Jasper reports. So this is how that works. So let me show you a brief demo. So I'm calling up this really basic HTML file. There isn't really anything in it. Let me show you. This is all there is. There's a text area for your XML. There's a text area for your XSL. And there's some XML data. I have some states here with some stats. I paste this into my XML. There's also my XSL file, and this is kind of like the thing that's complicated, right? You can use via publisher, you can use RTF. If you don't have that, if you don't buy that, then you have XSLFO. But it's a fairly straightforward language, right? Like here you are your page settings, your page size and margins. And down here is my template. There are the fields that I want to display. So I'm copying this into XSL. I hit submit, and then I'm getting my PDF out. Just to show you that that's not smoke and mirrors, let's change California to Ohio. There we go. So there's my PDF, and going back to my HTML source, all I called here is ORTs, right? This is my local instance, Apex. There's my ORTs. There's my FOP to PDF. So now taking this approach into Apex, I created this application here on my local instance, and my session expired. So there's my application, and the most basic printing. The most basic printing is just done by turning it on, right? Here's my classic report. Select star from AMP. I click on print. I'm getting a PDF out. That PDF looks like this. And it's using our built-in layout. When you look at how this was done, one-page designer. Look at the employees report. There's my query. So down here are my attributes. Inside my attributes, I turned off printing. And then here in this printing node, I can pick a layout, either the generic one or my own layout. I can set up the page size. I can pick fonts and colors and borders and everything. And then I'm getting this PDF output. Now, back to my example with basic XML and XSL. This is pretty much like my static HTML file, right? Like there's my XML, and here's my XSL, same as in my previous example. I click print, and I'm getting my PDF. So what I've done here, when you look at the implementation of this page, I have two text fields, I have a print button, and I have a process. And all that process is doing is taking in the XML, taking in the XSL, and then calling one of our print APIs. So depending on how you have it configured, it either goes against your publisher, or it goes against ORDS, or it goes against the old FOP. But it sends in the data, sends in the style sheet, gets back the PDF. So then my last example here is interactive reports. They're a little bit trickier. Interactive reports, they do support out of the box the ability to just print a PDF, right? Like I just go here, download a PDF, and I'm getting a PDF representation of my data. I have the same options to change the colors and fonts and headers that I have with classic reports, but I cannot configure my own report layout. So if you want to have an interactive report and style it in some other way, then you need to go through a few more steps to make that work. What I've done here in this, well, I guess simplified example is, I added a style sheet field down here where I can fill in a style sheet to be used with this report. And the style sheet could look like this, layout.xsl. Similar to what I've shown you before, it's XSL. It starts with my page dimensions and margins. Then it has a header here, which has a specific font and font size. And then it shows my rows in a table format. So it's roughly 100 lines, more or less, very much like HTML. I can take this, drop it into my style sheet here, and then generate my PDF. And then that's what I'm getting out of it. And again, just to show that it's real, I can go in here and maybe on the salary, instead of 12 point, I go 36 point. That's going to look pretty. And then I change my layout. So what I've done here, well, I can actually also filter, like let's go to just King. And when I print this out again, then I would expect to just get one record back. And I do. There you go. So what I've done here, when you look at the query, we have APIs available as interactive reports that return your query, right? But they don't only return the query, they also include the where clause and the bind variables used by King for search. So the way I implemented this is that I added this process over here to do my printing. Wait, that's the one page. I'm sorry. There you go. So there's my print process, and really all that's doing is it's first getting my region IDs based on my static ID, just to make it a little bit easier. Then it's getting the report using our interactive report APIs. It's executing that report. It's converting it into XML. It's setting the bind variables that are also available through our APIs. It's generating the XML. It's loading the style sheet that I copied and pasted. And then it's calling our API to print.
Okay.
That's
Thanks, Mark.
Sure.
We have not so many, we have 7 minutes left. We won't cut off at the hour. So Martin, you tell us something about Jasper reports, and then we still open for question and answers.
Questions. Okay. So there is a great question I want to ask after Jasper reports. I don't have any preset presentation, and I'll explain why in a second. So with Jasper reports, the reason why I didn't prepare anything is because I used it many years ago, and it's almost a hybrid solution to what Mark was saying and what Scott was showing in terms of overall, it's a complicated setup for developers. I found there's Java. You need to use Java. You need to use Jasper reports themselves. Thankfully, Dietmar Oost has a couple of great blog posts, and on his website, he's got a great step-by-step instructions of how to do it. Again, I still found this complicated to do because there's all these things.
Martin, we don't see your screen. We still see Mark's screen.
Yeah, I'm not going to share my screen.
I'm trying to get out of this, but I can't figure out how.
So I don't have anything to share the screen is. So
okay.
It is a free solution, but it does come with inherent developer cost. And then on the flip side, for end users to actually develop the reports, you had to use Jasper report integration with Word. And again, I found that complicated. I thought it's a good free tool, but it's your definition of what free is. It's free with an additional cost. We spent a lot of time editing these things. And I'm not knocking Mark, but I can't give what he showed to a business user. It's just not acceptable. They're not going to edit the XML. So every time they want to change something from 12 to 13 font, similar in Jasper reports, I would have to go and do that. And the reason why I don't use it anymore is because I really use AOP. And that the beauty of AOP is, from a developer perspective, I write a query. From a business perspective, I have a template in Word. End of story. And I just messaged that to you, Jürgen. And I know, again, I'm supposed to talk about Jasper reports, but I really don't see any other solution to use besides AOP because of simplicity. Yes, it costs some money, but the cost of not doing it is very expensive. You may have developers working on Jasper reports for all day or 2 days. How much does that time really cost? Where, again, I can get a report out in 30 minutes, at which point I spend most of my time writing the query, doing the template. And so that's my overall summary of Jasper reports and all of these printing solutions, I guess. So Joel, please buy AOP and integrate it. That's my ask.
That's a serious question. Is there any plans, Joe? Something you have?
It has never been discussed or considered or evaluated. So who knows?
Okay. So can I go into some of the questions we have now? Because there's one really interesting one. So I appreciate everyone asking questions. I've been trying to answer them briefly. I still want to keep on topic. So if anything that was off topic I didn't respond back to, that's why. The one interesting question is, someone asked a question of, they've got PDFs in their database, and they want to, when a user uploads them, they want to search the PDF, highlight for that searched word, and then generate a new PDF with that words highlighted. So it's an interesting thing. It's not just Oracle text where you search the PDF. Has anyone come across that? Any ideas you can think of to solve that problem?
The only thing I could think of with PLPDF is if PLPDF was generating that document, it would be pretty simple. But if you're feeding it a PDF document, now it gets not pretty simple, right? I guess what you could do, well, yeah, where it would get tricky. So if you fed it a PDF document, you could analyze that with Oracle text, and you could say, I'm looking for the word, rudder, right? It was an aircraft question. I saw it in there as well. The trick would be, where is that word, right? Oracle text doesn't say that's 3 inches down from the left and 2 inches over on the right. Oracle text is simply going to say, hey, rudder's in here. Here's the score. So that's where it would get really tricky. If we started in PLPDF, that could be pretty easy because I could just look through the data, and when I hit that value in a specific field, I could just put a little tag in front and behind that word and highlight that in a specific color. But The whole thing in Peel PDF, absolutely, I think that would work, but feeding in a PDF doc, especially if it's a scan, now we're done because there's no text, right? It's just an image.
Good point. I'm almost thinking a hybrid solution of using Oracle text to filter down to your subset list of what words have rudder in it, and perhaps using something like a Node.js app to then take those documents and highlight them with OCR character recognition. It's just probably easier in Node.js. Again, I agree with you, Scott. If you have the original data source, PLPDF would be a great tool, but if you don't, you might have to be creative with your solution.
Right, because it's not so much finding it, it's physically finding it on the page. Where do I highlight, and how big is the highlight, right? You know, I could probably, hey, here's a little yellow blob near the word, but to get the full width of the word, or perhaps even, hey, there's an image that we want to highlight, not just the word.
Yeah, I'd use Node.js for that and then pump it back. Joel, you were saying something?
It's okay. Text can't solve necessarily the PDF generation part, but understand with Oracle Text, you can highlight documents, right? I showed that in that presidential inaugural address, where there's functionality to highlight. And the other distinction about Oracle Text is it will highlight the words which caused it to be in the result. So it could be synonyms, it could be a thematic search. It isn't just necessarily an exact string search. And you can do that today. So you can generate a CLOB with the markup of the text and it already highlighted, and you say, hey, here are the tags I want you to use to highlight the reason for the hit.
Okay, so that would be the search result.
PDF, then great.
Okay, that answers my question.
Any other questions?
Very interesting question. Is there any training instructions? There's just a lot of, overall we've had a lot of questions on AOP around pricing, support, etc. I'm not going to get into that here. I would really recommend people to check out AOP. So I think it's apexofficeprint.com for those questions. Mark, there was a question on XLS or the XLST, and what version of XLST does FO support?
I think it's 1.0. It's like older version of XSLT, and if you're using tools like I recommended Ultraverse Television, at some point you have to make sure that you select that older version 1.0 or whatever it is instead of the default version 2 in that tool. So no support for newer versions yet.
Okay. Any other thing? I guess again, some of these things are just licensing cost questions, which for BI Publisher or other options, I would again recommend going out to your sales rep and asking them about that. We don't have any other questions on the chat for this conversation. Does anyone want to add any final words about their printing ideas and thoughts on what we saw today?
There's no one answer, right? I mean, AOP is getting a lot closer to the one answer, but I don't think it solves everything yet. I don't think it'll ever solve everything. So it's like anything else. You know, there's slightly different solutions for slightly different problems. So, I mean, if you have a BI Publisher license, that's probably good enough. You know, it does a lot of this stuff. You could use documents as templates, and you're already paying for it, so you may as well use it. But if you don't, and cost is a concern, you know, AOP or PLPDF, or, you know, I've seen people integrate Microsoft SQL Server reporting services with Apex, and it's because they had the license and it works. I've seen Crystal reports. I've seen all kinds of different, heck, Access would do the trick if you think about it. It wouldn't be elegant, but it would work. So yeah, there really is no right answer, but I think we're getting closer towards more correct answers, I guess, if one way to put it.
Yep. I think my closing remark on that would really just be, when you're evaluating all these solutions, don't put a $0 price tag on development time and business user time.
Exactly.
Factor that in, because just because you have to pay for a license, you're only looking at one side of the equation.
Yeah, 100%. Your time is worth something. Support is worth something. Just because I'm using PLF/PDF, it's free. If I find a problem with it, I need to waste more time solving that versus getting a support team involved. So sometimes it's hard to explain that, especially to a manager, but you're going to waste a lot of time trying to figure stuff out versus saying, hey, $4 or $5 grand, I can get a solution that I could use and create reports in 30 minutes or less versus me writing lots of PL SQL code, you know.
Totally agree with that.
And sorry, I just will say, just from an Apex standpoint, and Mark can affirm this, there isn't anything we're looking at for Apex 5.2 to improve this. This is the state of affairs today. So we aren't looking to quietly introduce some nifty printing feature. This is it for right now, for the time being.
Okay, thanks. Then I would say let's call it a show. And it is recorded and will be available soon on Apex World and YouTube. And thank you all. See you next time.
Thanks.
Thank
Great.
you.
Can I just add one?
I will turn it back on. There you go.
Okay. I got a message from Lino, and he said the Australian Oracle user group does have some Apex webinars. So if you Google AUSOUG / or just Google that, and you'll go to their page and you'll see that they've got a list of webinars there. So check it out.
Thanks.
Okay, thanks. Bye.